Why? Because of the volume and because of the margins. Because as you sell products at a higher price and you get money, you reinvest it into more efficient ways of producing, and you bring down the costs. And as you bring down the cost, you bring down price, and as you bring down price, you create demand. So it's the exact opposite of what the Keynesians say, that we need inflation, that people won't buy anything unless they think it's going to go up. I mean, think about any kind of merchant, any store. What does a store do if they have a lot of stuff and they want to sell it? They have a sale, right? They don't say, hey, we got a lot of extra merchandise, let's mark it up. Yeah, then people, here's what we're going to do. I'll tell my customers, I'm going to mark everything up 20%, and you better hurry up, because if you don't buy now, I'm going to mark it up 30%. And that's, oh, really? No, you cut the price, and people come in. And if prices went down in China, and that's exactly what happens when the RMB goes up, that means prices come down, and more people buy. Deflation is fantastic. That's what we had in America for over 100 years until the Fed came in and screwed it all up.
Got time for one last question.
One of the turning points in the United States was when Nixon came up with the gold standard, and you mentioned the gold standard as being something that is desirable, but do you actually think that America will never get back on the gold standard?
Yes, we will eventually. The world will eventually. I mean, the countries have experimented with fiat money in the past, and it's never worked. You know, people think that it is a progressive idea. It's not. The founding fathers rejected it when they formed America. They put us on a gold standard because they understood how bad fiat money was. So when people say, hey, we don't want to go back to the gold standard, no, it's going forward to the gold standard. What we're on now is something that has failed every time it's been tried. And this is a gigantic global experiment. It's been 40 years, and it's an abysmal failure. So we will go back on the gold standard. The only question is when, and what's the price of gold going to be? The longer we wait, the higher the price is going to be. But it's going to happen. And if governments do not adopt the gold standard, citizens will do it on their own. And I can tell you what I've already done. I set up a bank in the Caribbean, and I'm the first one to do this, but I'm not going to be the last. But people who have an account with me at my bank, Euro Pacific Bank Limited, they can hold their gold through me. I'll store it through, we have an agreement with Perth Mint in Australia, so I will store your gold, but when you open up an account, I send you a MasterCard, a debit card, and that debit card gives you access to your gold. And people think, well, gold is great for money, it's a good store of value. Well, how do I spend it? Well, this debit card lets you do that, because you take my debit card into a store, and you can spend your gold as easy. You can swipe that card, and you can buy merchandise with it, or you can take cash out of an ATM machine. So people can get on the gold standard themselves. They can save gold, they can spend gold, and if central banks are going to keep interest rates at zero and have this race to the bottom, and that's what we have now, a global currency war, right? And the object of a currency war is to commit suicide, right? It's the only war where the object is to kill yourself. And so all the countries are fighting to see who can destroy their currency the fastest. And if that is the war, well, the people aren't going to want it. You're not going to want to save a currency where your government is telling you that at the end of the year it's going to be worth a lot less than it is at the beginning of the year. So more and more people are going to want to own gold. And with the technology that we have today, with a debit card and computers, you can spend your gold almost as easily as you can spend your paper, and the people that you're transacting with don't know the difference. But you know the difference, because if currencies are going down, let's say 20% a year, and you have your money with me, your bank deposits are growing every year. And so for you, prices are coming down. So your neighbors could be complaining, hey, look at prices are 10% higher than they were last year, but for you they could be 10% lower, because you're paying in gold. And so when you buy something, you can think in terms of how much gold does this cost? Because the price of everything has been falling in terms of gold for 10 years. And it's probably going to continue. So, if you want to put yourself on a gold standard, there's nothing that stops it. Now, sometimes there's tax laws and governments kind of get in the way, but eventually they're not going to be able to stop this. And they're going to be forced to go back on a gold standard because the people will demand it. And the main reason that the politicians object to a gold standard is because under a gold standard there's discipline. Under a gold standard you can't run deficits. Under a gold standard you can't put interest rates at 1%. It doesn't work. Gold keeps the banks honest. It keeps the government honest. That's why the government always wants to get rid of a gold standard. It's like, it's like high school kids at a prom. They don't want the chaperone there. They're going to try to, But, we want the chaperone there because we know what a bunch of high school kids and a bunch of alcohol are going to do if there's nobody chaperoning them. Well, that's the same thing as them. What are our politicians going to do if there's no chaperone? You know, and so but the politicians are never going to do it on their own. The people are going to have to demand it. They're going to have to force the issue. And a monetary crisis, a sovereign debt crisis in America could be the very thing that would force that issue on American politicians. And if we go back on a gold standard, so everybody's going to go back on a gold standard. But we don't have to be the first one to adopt it. Other countries can unilaterally go back on a gold standard.
Thank you, Peter, for your presentation on behalf of everyone.